Hi and welcome back. Today we are making a beautiful ring with a solid gold bezel and a lovely amethyst gemstone. Let's get started. This is a solid gold bezel wire, an amethyst cabochon, a gold solder wire, sterling silver metal sheet, and a half-round silver wire for a ring band. Let's start by measuring the wire with calipers. To calculate the length of the ring band, I will use this handy calculator online. I will input the size of the ring I'm going for, then the thickness of my metal. I use millimeters, but you can use gauge. And then the width of the ring. Now the program will tell us how much wire we need to cut. Use calipers for precise measurement. I am marking where I need to cut. Next step is sewing. I will use my jeweler's saw to cut the wire. I am filing down the ends of the wire before soldering. For easier bending, I am annealing the wire. There are several ways to bend the ring here. I'm going to use a ring bending tool, which makes the process faster and easier. As you can see, it is quite smooth and effortless. I will use half-round pliers to close the gap for soldering. Make sure the ends meet perfectly flush for the solder to flow. Let's apply flux to the area we want to solder and a little piece of solder. As soon as solder has flown, I'm removing the flame. Now I'm using mandrel and a rawhide mallet to shape the ring. Using the ring bender again helps to get that even shape. Let's see if the size is correct. Perfect! I will use this sticky tape while making a bezel, as it keeps the stone in place and makes it easier to handle. I start wrapping the bezel wire at first before annealing it. I'd recommend annealing as it makes it softer, but be very careful not to melt it. I'm using a little oval bezel mandrel and half-round pliers to shape the wire. After making and cutting the bezel, I'm checking the fit. This is a gold solder. I'll cut it to smaller pieces and start soldering. Be extremely careful. Gold has a lower melting point than silver. Be patient and slowly apply heat to the seam. And the bezel is done. Time to file the ring and make a flat spot to solder the bezel on. I'm using a miter jig again. It will help me make sure the area is perfectly flat and even. There we go, the ring is ready. Now it's time to finish our bezel. I'm cutting a smaller piece of the silver sheet for a backplate. Adding flux inside and placing solder wire. I will be heating it all up very carefully again, heating up from below and not directly on the gold bezel wire. Here, unfortunately, I did make a mistake you will see in a second. Once the metal was hot enough and the solder has flown, I kept heating it up, thinking the solder hasn't flown yet. I should have worn glasses as I couldn't see properly and missed the critical moment. My bezel started melting from below. Let's see it again. This is when the solder has flown, but I just kept heating it up. And now the walls melted a bit. It's a bad quality video, but did you see? Let's clean it in the pickle and see if it's a done deal or if we can salvage this. You can see here how the walls melted. That's a pricey mistake, sadly, as gold is expensive. It doesn't look good, but maybe not all hope is lost. The stone may still fit if we clean it up from the inside. I will use burr attachments to remove excess metal. Sorry, my hand is covering the view. It looks much better now. I've used this attachment the most. It was great and helped me even out the surface. Looks like the stone fits. Use floss when fitting to prevent the stone from getting stuck. The bezel is ready. Next step is to mark where the ring band should be soldered on. This handy center finder helps with symmetry and marking. This time I will use a soldering paste to connect the ring with the bezel. I'm heating up the pliers first so that they won't be a heat sink. Then I'm applying the heat to the ring band, making sure it's evenly hot. I try to avoid the bezel. I don't want to melt it again. It gets hot anyway, so heating it up directly isn't necessary here. And there we go, the solder has flown. Now I'm going to add some embellishments to the ring band. To hold the ring, I will use a soldering clay, which is one of my favorite things. You'll see why. Getting a little chunk out and molding it slightly. See? It holds the ring so easily and you can shape it the way you like. Here I'm using the same technique. I am starting by heating up the clay and focusing my flame on the ring band, and I won't even touch the bezel directly with my flame. When everything is hot enough, I am focusing the flame on the area around the flower until the solder flows. Pay attention to the elements, you don't want to melt anything. Our ring is soldered. Next step is to clean it up and pre-polish. I'm using the Deco Sunburst bristle wheel attachments, starting with white and going through blue, pink and green ones. And now it's finally time to set the stone. For setting, I will use this hammer handpiece for my pendant motor. Starting on the opposite sides and making sure the stone is secured well in the bezel, and then closing all of the gaps around and making sure the bezel fits snugly around the gem. Despite melting the walls slightly, the bezel is still high enough to close around the gem. I was going to use some silver sheet inside to elevate the gem, but that won't be necessary now. Of course, it is a shame that I've lost a bit of gold, but that was the price I paid to learn making a gold bezel. Now I'm going to use these honey and grey Eve pumice attachments to clean the bezel and remove marks. These wheels are safe on most of the gemstones and won't damage them. Adding some patina to bring out the details in the flowers. I'm giving the ring the final polish. how do you like the result? I am so glad it wasn't a fail and I was able to salvage this ring. It's okay, it's a learning curve and a great experience. I hope this video will help you start making your own mixed metal jewelry. Huge thank you to Pepetools for helping me bring you this tutorial. Thanks so much for watching and I will see you in the next one. Bye! See? What? See? It holds the ring so easily and you can